a new daily news source, which you have up on the screen right there, called The Cup of Joe. A tool where we'll be sharing relevant news and articles pertinent to all of us. So please take note of the information here, and I hope it comes in handy for you. Next slide. As Phil mentioned, I am a co-founder and the COO of the Stockade Group. Again, thank you for joining us today to discuss big management, a topic that everyone is most likely aware of, but may not have all the answers for ways to deal with it. Deploying proactive strategies to gather it, understand it, actually use it to your advantage. I hope inside these next 60 minutes or so, you'll leave with some ideas, perhaps on an avenue to walk down that you didn't have before. And if nothing else, get better acquainted with some of the people close to not only the problem, but some of the solutions that are available. With that said, let me quickly introduce the companies represented here today that you'll see up on the screen. First, the Stockade Group. We work exclusively inside the higher education nonprofit space, providing annual fundraising and enrollment management services. We work every day inside your offices, looking for new creative strategies, technologies to help us perform our job functions better. What does that mean? Well, to name a few, we deploy hosted or in the cloud contact center technology and services inside our client's location. So our clients, students, faculty, or even volunteers can execute their own projects. We also provide off-site services where our professional staff can perform projects on your behalf from our offices. We offer related services from general consulting services to direct mail, from the initial creative design to printing and mailing services, broadcast messaging services to handle simple announcements to all of your constituents, or more complex messages via a ringless message where a pre-recorded message can be implanted on a voicemail box without ever even ringing the phone. And finally, big data solutions, including a knowledge-based tool that can be deployed on your website called AnswerClick, informational audits, compliance tools, which is why we're here today, right? So earlier this year, Stockade merged with the Call Center Corporation, our next corporation that is being introduced here today, a company designed to fill the gap between contact center software providers and customer needs in the contact center market. This new relationship really allowed us to bring new services and technologies to the table, designed and packaged with our client base in mind, all of you. Our plan is to continue to provide general education on topics related to your day-to-day activities through these informational sessions, where we can bring in guest speakers to discuss a specific topic or technology, as well as our daily email, like the Cup of Joe that we just discussed earlier, where we're sharing relevant news and articles via email pertinent to all of us. Finally, thank you for Coginov joining us today. We've worked with Coginov extensively to bring a few services and products specifically for the education nonprofit market through us. Since 2006, Coginov has conducted various proof of concepts with customers in several industries like finance, entertainment, government, travel, a lot more. Last year, we decided to reposition the company. We built an API or a semantic engine in order to license a semantic solution as a service on demand, which essentially allows small and mid-sized clients to take advantage of enterprise-grade solutions. Coginov targets markets that are information explosion-driven, such as emails, enterprise content, social media. These information sources are huge providers of text, information, and current software business processes are just not ready to handle, the flow of data in order to extract intelligence from it. Which again, which is why we're all here today. So I'm not going to go too deep into that. So next slide. Okay. First, I'd like to just introduce our speakers. Fred Stacy and Yves Salembier. I'd like to thank you both for your time and insight today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
First, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Fred Stacy, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Call Center Corp. Fred has held various senior operating positions in software and technology companies, a significant background in building and managing training and operational teams, created and built directed various U.S. and international operations for medium to large corporations. He spoke at many different national motivation and leadership events, and has even authored a book entitled Cut Out the Garbage that focuses on call center sales management. So with that, Fred, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. And again, as Joe said, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time. Phil, can you bring up the next slide? All right. So first I want to talk about big institutions and big wallets. You know, we probably all have heard something about this. You know, recently there was an announcement regarding a $100 million project, you know, through RPI that's going to focus on basically using IBM's Watson and supercomputing to try to analyze and find new uses for you know, big data solutions. And this is tremendous. We all assume that we're all going to learn and gather and understand you know, a lot of the things that go on at a much larger scale you know, from this exercise, and we're definitely very excited about, you know, somebody working directly with IBM to drive some, hopefully, some great leaps and bounds in you know, the industry and the overall ability to provide these to, you know, provide services to clients and this information. But not everybody has $100 million sitting around or has, you know, the ability to create a group like this. So I wanted to do a quick straw poll, you know, just of the group. If you could, down in your chat bar, like Phil showed you, can you answer these two questions? Does anyone on this call, did anybody attend the event for RPI? And just enter yes. And do you currently have a big data project that's going on at your university, or have you started one? Just type in yes and yes, and I'll see the answers right on my screen. I just want to get a kind of engagement of the audience and what you guys, where you're at with this discussion. So, no and no. All right. So we've got a yes. Two no's. So it sounds like so far, and I'm just kind of watching the answers come in. All right. So far, mostly no's. We do have one overall yes. So you know, I just want to try to gear. What I don't want to do is, if you already have a project going on, you know, some of the stuff may be a little more repetitive, but it seems like the audience is pretty much, you know, either not at the stage where they're creating a big data project and wasn't at the event. And that's okay. That's good. You know, so next slide, please, Phil. I'll get started. Keep answering, though, if you could. You know, I'll just kind of keep my eye on that, you know, the answers as they come in. So I want to start out first, and I want to define big data for everybody. You know, it's a buzzword. Everybody throws it around nowadays. You know, probably every business journal, every news or source that we look at today has some kind of article or information regarding big data. So I want to first define it. Then I'm going to talk about a little bit around some tools and technology and some of the background of big data solutions. And then I'm going to hand it off to Yves for a deep dive into, you know, some of the more intricacies of big data and solutions that are available. So first, let's talk about big data. You know, the way they define it is typically it's defined as hundreds, thousands of terabytes, basically enough data so that your current computing capabilities cannot handle it. That's really a big data problem. Now, most people, when I start to talk about big data, if they're data geeks, they start thinking about all the analytics and all the stuff that they're used to seeing, and they think about their data warehouse and Oracle and SQL and all these different formats of storing data, and they are part of the problem. But that's only really a small portion of the overall picture. The real big data problem today, as it exists, is coming from another form of data. So I'm going to talk about the two different types of data. There's structured and there's unstructured. So structured data, there's analytics groups, there's courses in most universities on data or different types of ways to analyze different polling information or structured formatting of data. This is nothing new. Data analytics has been around for a lot longer than what people even realize. They didn't coin it until about 5 years ago with business intelligence. But in the end, data analytics and analyzing structured form data that sits inside a database in a very searchable format, that's been around forever. So structured data is one little portion of today's world, though. The unstructured data makes up the majority of it. Now, unstructured data is anything that sits within some form where it's not easily accessible for searches or for analysis. These things can be anything from documents, emails, chats, notes, blogs, social media, as Joe mentioned. These are all forms of unstructured data. They're data that sits out there somewhere in a depository, but it has no way to simply be able to access, categorize, analyze, and understand, and then really respond based upon that information. So we've heard of larger institutions, going out, and there are consultants out there and have been since this whole big data revolution, and it really is a revolution, not an evolution, since it all started. And these consultants will go out and they'll bring in manpower, or they'll utilize, potentially students in the university that have some specific background in maybe data or things like that to go through and scour through a network and do what's called tagging or metadata tagging. This allows for documents to then be searchable, by putting certain keywords and certain things into a format, information, so that you can then search on it, gather, and analyze. So these projects, they could be years, year to 2 years. There was recently, a gentleman I heard, he spent a year on a major project leading a big data solution for a very large company. In this instance, it was a company, not a university, but I'm sure it goes across to everybody. They spent millions of dollars in 9 hours to really find out nothing. By the end of the project, yes, they had a great categorization inside a data storage location, that was easier to search. So there's some definite benefits to their project in that, but they really had no analytics or no understanding of what their true big data problem was. That's the way that most people have been doing it. They're approaching their big data solutions is through, obviously very expensive resources. So next slide, please. So just a few stats. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I think we can all do research and find out, different information about data. But I found these a little intriguing. So today, information is created, paper, digital, and grows faster than 65%. Actually, that number's increased since this report. But even relative to small companies or small environments, 100 users on a network, on average, can create or will on average generate 8.5 million emails a year, and that was by the end of last year. There's currently over 70 million blogs, 20 billion tweets. I've never heard a number for the number of Facebook posts out there, but I could only imagine how many are actually out there, just based upon the activity that I've seen in our own business side from Facebook and from social media. So if you reduce the time wasted dealing with the information overload in your university by just 15%, you could save if say 500 employees or 500 total active users are within your network, you could save roughly $2 million a year. That's a huge savings for a lot of us, and that's not all that big of a group. 500 people on a single network is not large at all. And more today, more than 70% of the of data created is in an unstructured format. So 30% is structured, 70%, and that number is just increasing. So next slide, please. All right. So under the hood, big data tools and technologies. One thing that's pretty common with Watson or some of the technologies that I know we work with or some of the other great tools that are out there, there are what's called a semantic engine. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Semantics is basically, semantics and natural language processing kind of go hand in hand in the technologies. And what it does is it's not just the ability to look at keyword values. It's the ability to actually understand content in the natural language format. There's rules to every language, and this works across multiple languages. So every language has its own set of rules. So based upon how that language falls within, say, a paragraph, an entire document, whether it's capitalized or not, where it falls in the sentence. All those things are part of the rule base that you can that are built into these semantic engines. So what they allow is they allow for categorization and understanding and interpreting and really getting the business intelligence or the analytics from that unstructured data into a format where you can make intelligent decisions based upon that. So, why is that important to understand? When it all comes down to it, when you're looking at an overall big data problem, you can approach it through the old way, which is, the manpower and going through and manually tagging everything and working through it as best you can. You can use volunteers, I suppose, and find ways to save money. But all in all, that's a long process to do. There are plenty of technologies out there today. Some obviously are going to be better than others, but it's important to understand when you're looking at these solutions to know that semantics and natural language processing are key pieces to helping you move projects like this, any big data project, through your pipeline and actually accomplish and get to the point where you can really find usable data. And in the end, no project analytics or anything is any better than what the responses are that you do with that data. It's all about the actions. We can be as smart as we want and know all that we possibly can, but if you don't do anything with that, it's just really, you spend a lot of time learning a bunch of stuff. That's not going to benefit you or your university. So next slide. All right, so some products to talk about. There's a lot of different things out there. The universities, you guys contact students constantly. However many matriculate based upon your contacts. I think it varies depending on the size and focus of the university. However, you do constantly receive contacts. You're touching, whether it be the students, the parents, the faculty, the current student body. Your constituents after they graduate. There's constant opportunities for contact, and with every one of those contacts, there's likely going to be some type of unstructured data created around it. So some of the tools that you can consider, and we're going to touch on a few of them today. The one is the knowledge base, as Joe mentioned. We do have a product, but there are other products out there too. I want to make sure I'm not trying to pitch you anything. It just happens to be a great product. There are multiple products out there that are available that can do this. They can interact and engage, with students online. You can interact and engage, your contacts, your students or faculty or anybody offline by utilizing internal formats of that. And I'll talk through some different implementation methods. Really what these tools really come down to is they're an engagement tool, a way to control and understand, your unstructured data, how people are communicating to you and what to do with it. There's information and content audits. These are where you're really kind of the starting phase where you're starting out with big data and you're researching, everything within your network. Reading, understanding, analyzing, interpreting, and then displaying usable information that's currently scattered throughout your network, probably replicated or duplicated somewhere, taking up tons of storage space. We all, everybody says, yeah, but, there's terabytes of data storage that's relatively cheap to put together. But we're not talking about simply terabytes. When you combine your structured and your unstructured data, you're talking about hundreds and often thousands of terabytes of data. And it's not about the storage of it, it's about the usability of it. It's about being able to access it and understand it and do something with it. So, there's things like compliance management tools, that can watch and monitor data and activities, whether it be structured or unstructured, and give you the ability to have visibility to whether or not you're within compliance to your rules or your processes. There's automated categorizations and analytics. Those kind of go back hand in hand with the information audit, kind of the next stage. After you've analyzed and understand your big data problem, you really can take a next step and automate all the categorization and the analytics so that you can then access that information easily. Some of the other tools for semantic engines and APIs like this, you can monitor unstructured data, meaning, say for instance, students are turning in, obviously, papers. You can have a system read, understand, and interpret, and try to analyze it and match it to past material. And based upon natural language processing in the semantics engine, you can get a pretty close accuracy, at least have a high enough percentage of either it matches or doesn't match, so you can make an intelligent decision based upon that. That's the power of these tools, like what they're working with Watson, or any tool, is that you're not only able to do the basic things that we're talking about on the front end or researching your data, but you can apply it to real-life usable functions inside the university. There's another example. There's things like course catalogs. Talking with Joe, since we did the merger with Stockade, I've learned a lot about the educational vertical and what you guys go through every day. And one of the things that struck me as pretty amazing was how much these things cost to put together and how often they're done in print and then sent out and shipped all over the country. There's easy ways to analyze and understand that and implement it in a format where people can easily find it online through semantics and natural language searches. These things are just a couple of examples. The power of a semantics engine and a natural language processing engine is really it's endless, depending on what your imagination can come up with. If it involves understanding and interpreting natural language processing and documentation around structured data, you can probably figure out a way to implement it, and that's kind of the power of these, this next generation of big data solutions. So next slide. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the knowledge base. I won't spend a whole lot of time. There's a couple of different ways, as I said, to deploy it. From a student constituent facing, you can do it directly on your website through natural search tools on your website. You can do it more targeted around a particular, a particular mascot or maybe school person. Create a knowledge base that's searchable through natural language processing. And really provide an ability to get content to the people when they're asking for it and get the right answer to that person. And that's really the power of this. And I know I'm kind of brushing over this fast, but we can definitely dive in offline if you want to hear some more about any of this technology or just talk about your big data problems or potential solutions. So forgive me as I run through this. So staff-facing, internal deployment. There's these deployments allow you to give consistent messages. You can utilize your material in whatever unstructured format to drive the answers accordingly. You can reduce time, whether it be the first time somebody calls your admissions group to ask a unique question. You can provide the tool for them to be able to find answers easily without, without having extensive years of experience or extensive knowledge. Easily searchable, pull up the right answer, and be able to provide that to the customer, to the student. And then, integrating it with your other solutions. We know that there are some great CRM tools out there that are implemented in a lot of colleges, specifically designed for the universities. There's online learning tools out there that you can integrate semantics to. And there's, the mobile and social apps. Email I've already touched on. I think we all get enough email during the day. We could probably see the value of something being able to read, understand, and interpret and analyze that information. And then, of course, chat tools or as I mentioned, knowledge bases. These are all different ways of deploying semantics and big data solutions within actual usable activity inside your university. Next slide, please. All right, I wanted to show this because I'm kind of the geek in me comes out, and I absolutely love the concept of natural language processing and semantics applied to something that really engages people. This is an example on the lower left-hand side of what's called an avatar that actually interacts. It's not a recording. It's actually using semantics and the natural language processing engine, and reads and understands this unstructured data that's coming in from a search, possibly a search combined with a chat tool on your website, and can answer, the question and interact with the, with the student or with the parent, using the right answers that you as the administrators are able to control. So just a fun way, there's some examples. Most often, larger corporations have implemented this up to this point, but it's actually very much available today in today's world with today's technology to any company of any size. You just really have to see the value of it and understand how to implement it. But clearly, being able to interact with your people online without having to have a staff member do it gives you a significant advantage, and you can imagine how much fun you could probably have engaging students with a tool like this. So next slide. All right. I know that one of the things that we often tend to forget is that that big data impacts and can have advantages for every part of the university or your organization. Communication and marketing. Some people say, what does that have to do with big data? Well, the simple reality is, as a marketing person myself, I always want to know what exactly my individual people who are coming to my website want to know. Just that simple thing. I want to understand what they're looking for. Maybe it's specific search terms. Maybe it's certain information that I don't already have on my website. Maybe there's conflicting information on my website. How do you recognize that in today's world? Standard analytics, even some of the advanced tools, don't typically show you exactly the terms and searches and that unstructured data portion and display it to you in a way that from a marketing perspective you can actually take a use or take an action out of. So these solutions allow you to, through natural language, understand, capture that, understand what your audience is looking for, how they want to be engaged. You can do things like, on your social media sites, maybe your student blogs, all these different tools out there that are gathering all these unstructured data. You can take advantage of this. From a marketing and communication standpoint, it may sound really strange to you, but big data definitely can have a very significant impact on how to drive your future programs. Driving answers to your audience, not based upon guesses, but actual real data. It's one of the most valuable things, and people do polls and try to guess, what people are thinking. But even if you go out and you ask somebody what they think about, maybe there's a special event that you put on for past constituents. If you went out and you did a straw poll of all of them and asked them what they think, they're not going to answer you 100% honestly. However, if they go online and they do a search, we've been trained by Google and Yahoo and all the search engines to just naturally enter what we want. Well, you can capture that data and actually make appropriate actions and directly impact their experience, whether it be through your direct phone calls, through their experience on your web, mobile, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So big data can definitely drive some very large impacts to your marketing and communications groups. And then you can constantly change and shift as your strategies need to based upon that real data. So next slide. All right. Now, big data tools today really have to come with a format to allow you that easy view, what I was just talking about. So whether you're utilizing it in just a standard, information audit or search, and Yves will show you another format of a dashboard. But, in today's world, we should be able to easily, once we've interpreted and understood and categorized, we should be able to see that information live and understand what's going on and the activities that are taking place, so that we can make immediate decisions based upon what's best, what we need to change our strategies or to focus on the things that are important to the people or the audiences, or to the unstructured data. So this is just another sample of what a unified dashboard can look like. They can be simple. They can be engaging. They can give you exactly the information you want in the formats that you need quickly to really understand what's going on. This happens to be a dashboard that's integrated to a knowledge base and search function, to a website. But dashboards, whether you're doing it on the on the information audit or content audit side, or whether you're doing it on an external deployment of a big data solution, either way, you really should have access to be able to have a unified dashboard to make the proper decisions. So next slide. All right, so obviously big data is only getting bigger. We all know that. It's going to continue to, and Yves got some pretty astounding facts in his discussion. Students, constituents, these can all be engaged through different channels, through the same type of big data solutions that are out there. Same semantics and natural language processing can have advantages on the front side too, by engaging your audience. And these technologies have tremendous ROI. Just the reduction in IT costs, infrastructures, when people start talking about traditional big data problems and think about, their own network and the back end and the problems they have there, I mean, those are usually the first things that people bring up. And absolutely, reduction in IT costs, infrastructure, categorization, easy searches, reducing time, ease of accessibility to that unstructured data, getting rid of replication of data throughout your network. I mean, I couldn't imagine as a university how much actual data in unstructured formats exists on your network. I mean, it's probably in your typical business, they're large, but you guys deal in unstructured data in all different types of forms, whether it be books, whether it be written material. Everything's provided digitally, I assume, for the most part today. And all those formats should be searchable and should be accessible. And then the power of being able to add it to the front end and utilize the tool, for your engagement, and satisfaction across all your channels. I mean, all those things combined, it's easy to come up with an ROI on a big data project in your institution. There's a lot of different ways to bite off, the entire project, and we'll definitely be, Joe and his group will definitely be able to engage us, and we can help you, understand, whatever methods even if it's just a conversation of what you're thinking about doing, we'll definitely help out in any way we can. So with that being said, next slide. I'm going to hand it back to Joe real quick, let him introduce Yves, who is much smarter than me, and really we'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper into some of the semantics and some of the information he has to share. And I appreciate your time. And Joe, thank you for letting me speak to your audience. And take it away.
Fred, thank you. Thank you for your time and your insight today. You covered a lot of facts, some of the solutions that could be deployed. So I think we got people thinking a little bit and see how these can be used inside their environment. So thank you again. With that said, I'll turn it over to Yves Salembier and give you a quick introduction. As you can see here, Yves is a partner and CSO, Chief Strategy Officer for Coginov since '05. He works collaboratively with his partners and customers to integrate the semantic and NLP natural language processes technologies into their day-to-day operations. Prior to Coginov, he was a CTO for Bibliomundo, a company delivering high-tech library management systems. All in all, more than 20 years of experience, strategic planning, project knowledge management, change management, consulting. He's participated in many expert panels, and he's joining us today. So again, Yves, thank you so much for taking your time to speak with everybody today and share your knowledge and information about what's out there for everybody to consider.
Well, thank you, Joe and Fred. Glad to be here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar today. I think it's very interesting. And just to continue on the same topics that were highlighted by Joe and Fred, we're often asked, is big data a new thing? And I would like to say that big data is nothing new. Like Fred said, it's not necessarily an evolution, but more a revolution in terms of what we see today. We've all been faced with high, density of data, high volume transactions in specific areas of our businesses. I think what's happening nowadays is we're getting a lot of volume, a lot of velocities across all channels, across all communication channels, in terms of whether be it the the telephone, the website, the chats, the emails, and so on and so on. So what we're seeing is really a flow of information that has increased tremendously across all channels, and I believe that's where where people have started to think in terms of big data, because as people, we're just not able to handle all those channels and be able to provide a standardized and normalized approach and methodology across all the channels, unless we have helps in terms of handling the flow of information, understanding, and acting on it. We could say that the globalization of the market is a factor. But I would venture that the internet and the number of devices available nowadays, be it desktop tablets, smartphones, is definitely the leading factor in what's happening across channels in real time. Before, we had the luxury of having a little bit delay, whether they were stock quotes or they were information exchange and so on. There were a little bit of delays. Now across all channels, everything's happening in real time. Another aspect is that categorized information, and Fred has touched on it, is a lot of the information being generated. Last year, for example, 90% of the information being generated was unstructured. We've created more information in the last few years than we have in the 50 year previous to that. So it makes for new ways of addressing the issues and being able to react. It also means that when we're confronting with unstructured data, for example, people calling in a call center, in the past we've extended our hours. We've added people, and what we saw was the emergence of very large contact centers, specialized contact centers, and outsourced contact centers, and so on. However, it's all fine to say we have if we had infinite resource pool that we could just keep adding people and so on, but when we add people, we also multiply the cost and the training required to maintain acceptable levels of quality of service. Because as organization, what we're concerned with is certainly the the quality of service, ensuring that our branding is, monitored and it's protected and so on and so on. So how do we manage those new channels? How do we maintain a competitive cost ratio? How do we stay creative and all of that across those communication channels? What we see and what we believe in the market is that we need to have a unified front as far as solutions are concerned for contact centers to manage the inflow of data. Fred has talked about unified dashboard to monitor communication channels. We've talked about smart knowledge base and unified knowledge base across all channels so that we can make sure that we quickly identify topics that are important to our students, to the people that are having conversations with us, that we're able to adjust and add new response, and mostly that we provide an harmonized and standardized response across all channels. And for that, what we have to is often we have to turn ourselves towards new technology in ways of managing the unstructured data. Following Fred's presentation, you're familiar now with Unified Dashboard Knowledge Base, so I won't dwell on that. But what are the new technology? What does it mean for us as organization? Does it mean that we have to replace our systems? Does it mean that we have to go out and invest a large amount of money? I think the idea is not necessarily to go in and replace everything. It's kind of work with the new technology to add value to the existing processes, automate where we can automate, and so on, so that we can have a better handling on the communication flow and information flow that we are confronted with. If we talk about natural language and text mining and so on, those are things that have been around for a while, but with the idea, of computer reading and so on, and we've added now a lot of things like heuristics and part of speech to handle the documents or information flow that are not so well structured. For example, if we take a tweet today, a tweet is often not a complete sentence and so on, so we have to adjust and adapt to that. But what we have nowadays is we're building a new ecosystem that to coexist and manage the inflow and outflow of data better. Next slide, please. So the new ecosystem, what it does, adds intelligence and automates some of the process to the equation of filtering the information inflow, providing automated response or suggestion, providing routing capabilities to qualify agents, adding virtual agents, would be it up, for people connecting to us via the web or via chat or via email and so on, so that we're able to keep monitoring and keep making sure that we are on a 24/7 basis, being able to interact and properly engage those students or those constituents that are interfacing with us on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about what it all means when you talk about text mining and semantics and so on. Maybe the idea is probably talking in terms of examples. What does it actually mean to use machines to read text and understand text? Well, what we're trying to achieve is the idea of information is flowing and that be it a single question from a students as part of the customer engagement process, a tweet, a blog, a news feed, or a research document, and so on. What we're actually looking to do is understand and contextualize that information so we can understand it and act. Because behind everything, we have to be able to make sure that we act and respond properly to all conversations, all information exchange, and so on. So the idea is to extract concepts, entities, summarize, documents quickly so we don't have to read the whole document. Auto-classify those documents so that they can be organized and be findable. Improve search so that we have what we call findability. And manage the overall life cycle of information, because you have to make sure that information is being created properly, but it's also being destructed properly as well, because or archived in the case being if it cannot be destructed for a while. Next slide, please. So as we scan documents, and this example, what I've done is I've just taken a news feed about a university publishing research documents on supercomputer, and the document is being read by machine, and we automatically starts extracting concepts. And concepts, why are we talking in terms of concept and not words? Well, concept have contextualization. A word it can be taken out of context because it could be used in any way. A concept like quantum computers or petaflop machines or big barrier for supercomputing cannot be taken out of context because it has meaning and it has sense within its context. We also extract entities, like China, Gray Computers, Intel, Oak Ridge, and so on. But at the same time, we classify that information so that we can organize it so that other people can collaborate on it and can exchange on it and find it. For example, in this case, this document would be filed under science technology, but it could also look and be meaningful in the economic and industry discussion or government and politics discussion. So has more meaning and it can be categorized accordingly. Next slide, please. So where is it applicable? It's applicable wherever we see an information flow. Customer engagement, we've talked about. Document management is another area where we can see the education, email management. In document management, for example, as you're adding and adding documents to your document management system, usually you have to create a profile for this document, extracting the metadata, extracting the information that you will reference the indexing system with, so that this document can be found later on and can be collaborated on. Well, nowadays we're looking, in order to handle the volume of document management systems, we're looking at using the same tools to extract and populate the smart data automatically, so that we find consistency and standardization across our document management processes. Email management is also another area. You have the inflow of email, for example. If I could automatically redirect all the emails that are relevant to the admission office, then I've made some gain, because the email will be redirected to the correct person a lot quicker. If I can make sure that a document triggers a process like adding the name to the CRM systems, or posting a note, or triggering a task, then we've gained some potential added value within our organization. Again, archiving and survey management are other areas of where those type of technology can apply very easily. Next slide. So we wanted to touch a little bit on the information audit, because one of the things that often we're asked is, how can I assess where I am today and where I need to go and build the right strategy for my organization? Well, the first thing is usually you have to figure out exactly what information is available to us. Where does it sit? we can do an informational audit in terms of risk assessment or document management strategy, email management strategy, and so on. So what does the informational audit do? Well, it kind of goes and has a discovery process where it collects, analyzes, and organizes information. And within that, it tries to analyze and define the sense and the context of that information so that it can build the proper dashboard that we've talked about before, build the reports that are, diagnostic reports, and they're going to help us in assessing where we are today and where we want to go, be it a website or a website review for the next building a new website or building a new image for the university or college, be it looking at all documents that sit across to assess risk and make sure that only the right people have access to the right documents, and figure out why those documents are being exchanged, though there shouldn't be because of policy or governance issues and so on. So that's all part of the informational audit. And what we're trying to achieve with that technology in an informational audit. Next slide, please. And the idea is when you do an informational audit is to build what we will call an information map. So understanding where is the information, being able to drill down and see how many documents, for example, often when you do informational audit on all, the file system, the NAS, the SAN, and so on, you suddenly realize that you have, documents that are sitting in that you don't even have the technology to use anymore. For example, you could have documents that were created with Lotus Note and now you're using Outlook. So you can have documents that were created with WordPerfect, now you're using Microsoft Office or OpenOffice. So those are the type of dashboard that can be useful in assessing the situation and making sure that we understand where we are and how to organize information so it can be useful for all people to collaborate on and to manage governance and policies. Next slide. I'm going to go right ahead and conclude because I see that's almost time, our time is up. But and I want to leave some time for questions. But what are the takeaways today? Well, the takeaways are big data is all about volume, variety, and velocity of data, and a lot of that data being created, 90% of it in 2012 is unstructured, and we have to have the ability to deal with that because we cannot just let that information flow by the side and just say, well, I'll take care of it later, because later will never happen again. In terms of the customer engagement process, it means we're being impacted by big data, across the channels, like we said. So we need to have a unified approach. We need to automate some of the processes so that we don't need to have wall-to-wall of people and computers and so on. We need to maybe integrate new technologies like Semantics and LP technology because they will allow us to improve our processes. And is it open to everyone? Yes. Nowadays the cost of NLP and semantic technologies has come down tremendously so that it's affordable to everyone. It has become a commodity, so it is available to larger or smaller organization alike, and you should have a minimum of in terms of creating your strategies that are in order to face this growing problem. Okay, Phil, I'm going to turn it back to you now because I know there's only about 5 minutes left.
Okay. Yves, thank you very much. Fred, thank you very much. And could you say that all again, because it's pretty deep stuff. But I think most people here probably got it. There are a few questions, and we'll get to them real quickly because we do want to keep this to an hour. So I'm going to kind of pick and choose real quickly, like I say. First of all, someone asked if this is being recorded. Yes, it is. And what we'll do is get that link out to you no later than tomorrow. And watch for tomorrow's Cup of Joe. We'll have it in there as well, the link. And please feel free to share that with, you may not be the right person. Maybe there's the IT department, etc., that you can share it with. Feel free to. One of the questions, well, if I'm interested, I'm confused. Do I talk with Yves, Fred, or Joe? And that's a good question. Fred, you want to take that?
It depends on what kind of answer you want. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely contact Stockade. You know, if you go to the next slide, they'll actually just display the contact information. We can get you in touch with Joe and the Stockade Group, and they'll be able to you know, bring anybody in depending on what, you know, what's your actual, you know, what you want to take a look at or what you want to discuss. You know, like I said, Yves is much smarter than me, as you heard. He knows this stuff a heck of a lot better than I do. But you know, we'll bring in the right resources and make sure to talk to you about your, you know, whatever your project happens to be.
Okay, perfect. How about one more? What do we do? How do we collect data from non-networked computers? How is that done if we want to start with a type an audit or something? How would we do that?
Well, evidently the audit is. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
Usually when you're doing an audit, evidently you're looking to start services to read and collect information. So if you have non-network machine, it's a little bit harder. But the idea is you can also start the same service on a local computer or non-network computer to collect information and then add that to the overall information map, so that you can also you know, include all non-network computers.
Okay. Tell you what, gang, we started a couple minutes late. It's a couple minutes now. Any closing comments from the speakers here before we sign off?
Just thank you.
Just thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for attending. And if you have any other questions, if you want to have more conversation, feel free to reach out to us with the number or the website, and we'll get the proper resources together and answer all of your questions and go from there. Thank you again.
Well said.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Now get back to work. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.